After this weekend and the latest series of blunders surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's upcoming trip to the UK, it's hard not to conclude that the couple and their PR team have displayed remarkably poor judgment. The way this situation has unfolded is baffling. When you're a public figure, misleading the media, family, friends, and even charities in what some believe is an attempt to pressure or influence decisions only creates more controversy. That if the goal of this entire debacle is to pressure Harry's father and the royal family into restoring the level of security he wants, it's difficult to see how this strategy helps. Nothing about this situation provides any real leverage. Instead, it comes across as another public meltdown that has only made matters worse. This controversy also raises broader questions about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal status. Critics argue that their titles, positions in the line of succession, and other royal privileges should be reconsidered because the ongoing chaos appears to be entirely self-inflicted. They believe the couple's actions reflect a perception that they remain on equal footing with the working royal family, despite stepping away from royal duties. From that perspective, some believe it is King Charles's responsibility to protect the monarchy by creating a clearer separation. Before we dive into today's discussion, if you're new to Real News Network, my name is Brittany, and I provide royal commentary and analysis. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing. I'd love to have you back. Also, these are the final days to sign up for our October trip to Slovenia. If you don't know much about Slovenia, it's a beautiful country in Central Europe that offers incredible scenery, history, and culture. During our tour, we'll visit local wineries, and here's a fun fact. Slovenia has roughly one vineyard for every 70 people, making wine an important part of its culture. Most of that wine is enjoyed within the country, so it's a fantastic destination for wine enthusiasts that will also visit one of the world's oldest grapevines, which is over 400 years old and located in Maribor, Slovenia's second-largest city. Another highlight will be the breathtaking Lake Bled, one of the country's most iconic destinations that if you're interested in horses, you'll love visiting the Lipizan Horse Farm, where the famous horses of the Spanish riding school are bred. We'll even get to see the foals. And for anyone who enjoys adventure, Slovenia is famous for its spectacular cave systems, so we'll be exploring one of those as well. Between the wineries, horses, stunning lakes, and incredible caves, there's something for everyone. If you're looking for an unforgettable trip this fall, somewhere a little off the beaten path where you can explore, relax, and meet new people, be sure to check out the links above and below for more information. One quick reminder before we continue. Ana Lucia is currently offering a free gift with the purchase of one of their solitaire diamond rings, like the one I'm wearing. Use the code ROYAL20 to receive 20% off, and if you order by July 4th, you'll also receive a complimentary gift. Now, let's get back to this extraordinary situation. I covered it yesterday, and I described it as sheer stupidity. Since then, it seems Harry and Meghan have only doubled down. If Meghan hopes to be viewed as a savvy strategist or influential public figure, aligning herself with what many see as Harry's poor decision-making does little to strengthen that image. To understand why this issue continues to generate so much attention, it's worth reviewing why Prince Harry no longer receives full-time taxpayer-funded security. When Harry and Meghan stepped back from their royal roles in 2020, they were informed that their publicly funded security arrangements would change if they ceased being working members of the royal family. According to this account, they were told they could retain that level of protection by remaining in their royal roles. Today, King Charles, Queen Camilla, the Prince and Princess of Wales, and their children receive around-the-clock security because they carry out official duties on behalf of the monarchy. The British monarchy operates on the principle that the sovereign, currently King Charles III, serves as the head of state. Because of that role, members of the royal family inherit varying levels of security risk. In any monarchy, the closer someone is to the throne, the greater the perceived risk and the greater the need for protection. At present, the direct line of succession runs from King Charles to Prince William, followed by Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. While Prince Harry remains in the line of succession, he is no longer central to the monarchy's future in the way the direct heirs are. That's simply how hereditary monarchies work. You may be born relatively high in the line of succession, but as future generations are born, your position naturally moves lower. For example, the Duke of Gloucester was once fifth in line to the throne, roughly where Prince Harry is today. He has since moved down to 32nd in the line of succession. While Harry is unlikely to fall quite that far anytime soon, the same principle applies. As Prince William's children grow up and eventually have children of their own, Harry's place will continue to move further down the succession. Imagine that each of William's 3 children eventually has 3 children. Once William becomes king, Prince George and his descendants would occupy the top positions, followed by Princess Charlotte and her descendants, then Prince Louis and his descendants. In that scenario, Prince Harry would move significantly lower, potentially to around 13th in the line of succession, and even further down as future generations expand. This same constitutional principle also applies to security. When Archie was born, Harry and Meghan were reportedly informed that Archie would not receive full-time taxpayer-funded protection. According to this perspective, the decision was based on constitutional relevance rather than race or discrimination. At the time, Archie was not expected to become a working royal or play a central constitutional role, unlike the children of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Many believe the same outcome would eventually have applied to Prince Harry himself. Even if he had remained a working royal, his level of protection may have changed over time, much like other non-heir members of the royal family. Princess and Prince Edward, for example, do not receive round-the-clock protection at all times. Security is generally provided when carrying out official engagements or when there is a credible, specific threat that requires additional protection. This has led some observers to argue that Harry's ongoing campaign over security is driven less by the actual threat level and more by the emotional impact of no longer occupying a central position within the monarchy. Given the title of his memoir, Spare, critics suggest that the issue reflects a broader concern about status and relevance rather than security alone. Security decisions are made by RAVEC, a government advisory committee responsible for assessing protective security for members of the royal family, senior government officials, former prime ministers, and other high-profile public figures. The committee evaluates each individual's role, responsibilities, and level of risk before determining what protection, if any, is appropriate. Former heads of government often continue receiving security because decisions they made while in office may create long-term risks. A president or prime minister can make military or foreign policy decisions that affect millions of people, meaning potential threats may continue long after they leave office. The monarchy functions somewhat differently. Although King Charles serves as head of state, he does not personally set government policy. Nevertheless, because he represents the British state, he and the senior working royals who support him inherit a heightened security risk. As a result, those closest to the throne generally receive the highest level of protection. Reports have also suggested that Prince Harry struggled with the idea that his role would naturally diminish following the birth of Prince George. As the direct line of succession became more firmly established, Harry reportedly became increasingly concerned about remaining relevant and making a lasting impact within the royal family. Of course, there are many examples of royals who have built respected public roles without being direct heirs. Princess Anne is often cited as one of the hardest working members of the royal family, yet even she does not receive permanent, 24-hour security. Recent public appearances have also prompted discussion about changing security arrangements. During Trooping the Colour, some observers noticed what appeared to be an increased police presence around the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. Officers were seen walking alongside the royal carriage on both sides of the route, a more visible security posture than in some previous years. Whether that reflects a broader change in security planning is unclear, but it underscores the heightened protection typically afforded to the direct heirs because of their constitutional importance. In addition to King Charles, the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children are viewed as the monarchy's most important working members because they represent its future. Prince Harry, however, no longer occupies that role. Since stepping back from royal duties, he no longer officially represents the crown or serves as an extension of the institution, at least in theory, and we'll come back to that point later. Because of that, many people ask why British taxpayers should continue funding his security simply because he still holds a royal title. RAVEC has reviewed his case, the Metropolitan Police have conducted their own assessments, and the conclusion has consistently been that Harry does not require permanent taxpayer-funded protection. It's also important to remember that whenever Prince Harry or his family travel to the UK, they can request that RAVEC reassess any specific security concerns. If intelligence indicates a genuine or heightened threat, additional protective measures can be approved for that particular visit. The system already allows for that flexibility. AS reports over the weekend suggested. Harry's latest request was once again assessed, and the conclusion reportedly remained the same. There was no evidence of an increased threat that justified restoring permanent protection. Ironically, this is something Harry could almost view as good news, since it suggests authorities do not believe he faces an exceptional level of danger. Yet critics argue that the dispute has become less about actual security and more about perception, status, and personal pride. In their view, the issue is driven as much by emotion as by objective risk. There is also another question worth considering. If someone genuinely believes they are under constant threat, those responsible for providing private security have every incentive to reinforce that belief. The more a client fears for their safety, the more willing they may be to continue paying millions of dollars each year for protection. That's only a personal theory, but some critics wonder whether Harry's private security advisors may unintentionally, or otherwise, be reinforcing his fears instead of challenging them. Many observers believe Harry and Meghan could safely go about much of their daily lives with a relatively modest security presence, increasing protection only for higher-profile events. After all, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has been seen undertaking outdoor activities without an overwhelming security entourage surrounding her. While there are certainly occasions that require enhanced protection, critics argue that Harry and Meghan's lifestyle does not necessarily place them in the same high-risk category as some of the world's wealthiest or most recognizable celebrities. That brings us to the latest controversy surrounding the couple's reported visit to the United Kingdom. According to these reports, Harry and Meghan publicly announced their planned trip and provided members of the media with a detailed itinerary. From a journalist's perspective, receiving an official itinerary generally means it has already been finalized. Reporters naturally assume that the events listed have been arranged, confirmed, and coordinated with the organizations involved. There was little reason for the media to doubt the information. Harry and Meghan have previously announced visits to countries such as Colombia and Nigeria, and they also traveled to the UK in 2022. While some people questioned why Meghan would accompany Harry after repeated claims that Britain was too dangerous, others suggested the visit also offered opportunities for public appearances and brand promotion. When an itinerary is released, charities and organizations begin preparing well in advance. Venues schedule staff, coordinate security, organize volunteers, and make logistical arrangements based on the expectation that the visit will take place. For example, if an organization such as Birmingham Children's Hospital is included on the schedule, preparations may have been underway for weeks or even months. That's why critics viewed it as highly unprofessional when reports emerged almost immediately afterward suggesting that Meghan and the children might no longer be attending. If those reports reflected the couple's own changing plans, it created unnecessary confusion for the media, charities, and everyone involved in organizing the visit. From this perspective, reporters were simply covering the itinerary they had been given. This wasn't speculative gossip or unverified rumors. It was information that had reportedly been provided to the press. Having covered royal engagements personally, I know that schedules can change. Additional events may be added, timings may shift, and occasionally adjustments become necessary. That's perfectly normal. But completely reversing plans after publicly releasing an itinerary is something else entirely. Imagine receiving the full official schedule for a state visit, making all the necessary preparations, arriving at the airport to cover the event, and then learning at the last minute that the principals have decided not to proceed. Everyone involved would have invested significant time, effort, and resources based on the expectation that the visit was happening. That is why many critics have described the handling of this situation as disorganized and unprofessional. In their view, once commitments have been publicly announced and organizations have begun preparing, changing course without clear communication creates confusion for everyone involved. It would be frustrating. It would be aggravating. It would demonstrate a remarkable lack of respect for the people you're working with. That's why situations like this are so unusual. Once an official itinerary has been announced, people generally don't reverse course almost immediately afterward. Yet that's exactly what critics say happened here, and they place the responsibility squarely on Harry and Meghan, as well as their public relations team. Some have even joked that anyone working for the couple must have the hardest job imaginable because every new controversy seems to create another public relations challenge. That brings us to the latest statement released by Prince Harry's spokesperson. According to the spokesperson, Prince Harry's program in the United Kingdom includes both public and private engagements across the country. Safe accommodation is only one element of an effective protective security plan because risk follows the person, not the place. Critics, however, argue that this misses the central issue. The question has never been where Harry stays while visiting the UK. Rather, the issue is whether he requires taxpayer-funded protective security throughout the duration of his visit. Supporters of the current system point out that Harry and Meghan have traveled to countries such as Colombia, Nigeria, and other international destinations without receiving British state protection. From that perspective, they argue there is little evidence that visiting the UK presents a uniquely elevated threat. The spokesperson also noted that an independent risk management board, reportedly approved by RAVEC last November, has not yet completed its assessment. Critics respond that the UK government has many competing priorities and that Harry's security dispute is unlikely to rank highly among them. In their view, repeated reviews by both RAVEC and the Metropolitan Police have consistently concluded that there is no exceptional threat requiring permanent taxpayer-funded protection. The statement continued by questioning how the current security arrangements could be considered proportionate without the independent assessment taking place. Again, opponents argue that Harry's security has already been reviewed multiple times. Each visit can be reassessed individually, and if intelligence identifies a genuine threat, additional protection can be provided. Since those reviews have reportedly found no significant increase in risk, they believe the current approach remains appropriate. Some critics go further, arguing that while Harry may attract protests or negative public attention, that is very different from facing an extraordinary security threat. They contend that public criticism alone is not sufficient justification for restoring permanent state-funded protection. The spokesperson also stated that Harry continues to explore every available option to ensure the visit can proceed safely and to give his children the opportunity to spend time in the United Kingdom. Critics question that argument as well, suggesting that Harry's repeated public expressions of concern about security may themselves contribute to an atmosphere of fear surrounding his family. Further reporting from The Sun claimed that a risk management board was expected to review Harry's security arrangements following his unsuccessful High Court challenge over taxpayer-funded protection. However, according to the report, no such meeting has taken place, and RAVEC has maintained its position that permanent security is not justified. Those who support that decision argue that British taxpayers should not be expected to fund full-time protection for someone who is no longer a working member of the royal family. In their view, simply being the king's son does not automatically entitle someone to permanent publicly funded security. This broader debate has also reignited discussion about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's royal titles and constitutional roles. Some critics argue that as long as the couple retain their royal titles, remain in the line of succession, and Harry continues to hold the formal status of Counselor of State, even if he is unlikely to perform that role, they retain a connection to the monarchy that continues to create confusion and controversy. From that perspective, they believe King Charles should consider taking further steps to create a clearer institutional separation between the working royal family and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Their argument is that each new dispute inevitably draws the monarchy back into headlines connected to Harry and Meghan, making it more difficult for the institution to distance itself from controversies involving the couple. Supporters of this view believe the monarchy should establish clearer boundaries, allowing Harry and Meghan to pursue their own independent lives without repeatedly involving the royal family in public disagreements. Whether or not one agrees with that conclusion, the debate ultimately reflects a broader disagreement over where the line should be drawn between Prince Harry's personal status as the king's son and his constitutional role within the modern British monarchy. From this perspective, if Prince Harry truly believes his royal status places him at greater risk, then the logical solution would be a complete constitutional separation. Critics argue that this would mean removing his remaining royal privileges, including his titles, his place in the line of succession where legally possible, and his status as a Counselor of State. Their view is that once those formal constitutional ties are removed, much of the argument surrounding state-funded security would naturally disappear because he would no longer be connected to the institution in an official capacity. Supporters of this position believe it would provide a far clearer and simpler resolution than the recurring disputes over security, public appearances, and royal responsibilities. They also argue that King Charles has so far shown little willingness to make such sweeping changes. In their view, the repeated controversies involving Harry and Meghan demonstrate why a more decisive response may eventually become necessary. Critics contend that the royal family cannot control Harry and Meghan's decisions. They argue that the only thing the monarchy can control is its own relationship with the couple. From that perspective, the institution's best course of action would be to create greater distance between the working monarchy and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Importantly, they distinguish between constitutional ties and family relationships. Harry will always be King Charles's son, and Charles will always be Harry's father. Likewise, Charles's relationship with his grandchildren is a personal family matter rather than a constitutional one. Their argument is that it is the official royal connection, not the family relationship, that continues to draw the monarchy into controversies surrounding Harry and Meghan. They believe that severing those remaining institutional links would help reduce ongoing reputational damage to the crown. Some observers also note that the monarchy continues to face separate reputational challenges involving other members of the extended royal family, arguing that these issues collectively reinforce the need for clearer boundaries regarding non-working royals. From this perspective, simply hoping future controversies will fade away is no longer a sustainable strategy. Critics argue that King Charles has already given Harry and Meghan numerous opportunities to establish a more constructive relationship with the institution, yet public disagreements have continued. As a result, they believe the king should place the long-term stability of the monarchy above attempts to accommodate his younger son. Their concern is that repeatedly responding to Harry's demands risks distracting from the institution's primary responsibility, protecting the future of the crown and supporting the direct line of succession. They argue that Prince William and his family represent the monarchy's future, and that preserving public confidence in that future should remain the institution's highest priority. Many also acknowledge that King Charles understandably wants a relationship with his grandchildren. However, critics believe those family relationships ultimately depend on decisions made by Harry and Meghan themselves. In their view, if contact between the children and other members of the family is limited, responsibility rests with the parents rather than with King Charles or other relatives. Some hope that, in time, those family relationships can be rebuilt. Others are less optimistic. Whatever happens, many recognize that time is an important factor and that King Charles may not have unlimited opportunities to strengthen those personal bonds. Those are my thoughts on the situation. I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments below. What do you think about this latest controversy, and what do you make of the kumquat analogy? If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. Also, be sure to check out Ana Lucia's current promotion. And if you're interested in joining us on our upcoming trip to Slovenia, registration closes in just a few days. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.